You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the new Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Hello one, hello all. Welcome to the podcast in which we talk to people who are involved in independent music, whether it's emo, punk, metal, whatever genre or subgenre you care about. That is what we care about here too, as long as it's obviously of the independent variety. Today's a little bit of a different guest because this person is steeped within the punk and hardcore scene, but and has played in bands, but runs an independently owned and operated business. And he is Rich Gaccione, which I am absolutely butchering his last name. And Rich, I apologize in advance. He is from the Providence Vegan Deli, an amazing shop. I have not been there yet, so I cannot personally vouch for it as far as the tastiness is concerned. But from all of my friends and other people who have traveled through there and eaten there, they say it's incredible. Rich has a very compelling and interesting story because it came from obviously touring with his own band, touring with My Chemical Romance for many years in regards to like guitar teching, and then effectively falling into a business in food service and food preparation. It's really, really fun. And I was like, you know what? It's been a while since I've done this sort of like not band person interview, even though Rich obviously is a band person. I wanted to dig in, and Rich was such a great guest. So you'll be able to hear more about him in a moment. But first of all, you want to support the show, right? Spread the word on social media where you can. That helps out tremendously. I see it. I appreciate it. And thank you very much for doing that. You can also leave a rating and review for absolutely free. This takes you 30 seconds of your time on Apple Podcasts, or simply leave a rating on the Spotify page. All of those things help out tremendously. And it just gets the show recommended to the people that it needs to get recommended to. I post all these episodes on YouTube. You'll find a link in the show notes where you can follow along there. If you listen to podcasts there, there's no video component. I'm sorry, just not going to do video. That's not something that I am interested in. So that's, you can read into that what you will. But yeah, if you are curious about my decision to not go on video, you can email me 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. Love to receive any and all feedback in regards to guests, other sort of things that are on your mind. I love to receive email because after all, podcasting is an interesting sort of isolating medium, but it's great. And I love to see the community that has been built around this. And you reaching out shows me that someone is listening, and I appreciate that. I'm in Japan right now, and it's wild because I've been able to go over here many times on tour with my band Taken. We're doing some shows with Shai Hulud. So if you happen to be in Japan over the next week or so, we're playing some shows, 2 in Tokyo, 1 in Osaka, 2 other cities, and Nagoya. And then I'm totally blanking on the last one right now because that's how tired I am. But yeah, it's incredibly thrilling to see the international support that bands receive, music scenes receive, and some of the best record shopping I've ever done in my entire life is here in this beautiful country. So shout out to Japan for continuing to be one of the best places on the damn planet. Let's go ahead and talk to Rich right now. Like I said, he played in What Feeds the Fire. They put out a demo and I want to say an EP on Stillborn Records, but great dude. And I've watched his business grow from afar, and I cannot wait for the day for me to be able to crush one of the sandwiches that he makes. And I just had to put the spotlight on him, and that's what we're doing. So, but lest I forget about the weekly recommendations. This is a special part of the show for me because I get to recommend records to you, the listener, and this is one of the most consistent pieces of feedback that I receive about the show is just these particular recommendations, not because I'm like some music savant, but just the fact that it's, bringing and highlighting these things and releases that, deserve your time and attention, because after all, there's only so far that you can trust the algorithm for spitting things that you most likely will maybe like. I don't know. It tries, but I have a link in the show notes to playlists for Spotify and Apple Music. And it's just a great way for you to hopefully find music, new, old, everything in between. This is a new release from a band who I had a recent guest on, Scott from the band, Zao. Or Zao? That's how I've always said it. I was about to say, wait, is there another way to say that? No. But they just released an EP called Pillars. It's really, really cool because they focus on bands from their specific area that were very influential or that they had direct ties to. They cover Creationist Crucifixion, Passover, Puritan, and Abnegation. And it's really cool to see them reinterpret these songs. And even if you've never heard of any of those bands, it's awesome to hear this sort of, new twist on what it is these bands were doing originally, because they all exist within the sort of metallic hardcore world. But it's a great EP. Zao continues to reinvent and come up with cool new ideas. They've been a band for 30 plus years. So it's cool to see that. But link in the show note, Apple Music and Spotify playlists. Bounce around, put it on shuffle, listen to it all day, and hopefully you'll find something you like in there. So anyways, now for real, let's toss it to Rich. Food in general. It's obviously an important part of living. It's an important part of people's lives in general. But you don't always make the connection, of liking food, loving food. Sometimes it happens early, sometimes it happens much later. Your relationship with food, where did that initially start as far as being oh, I love this. And this is something I care about deeper than just I gotta, go to a nice restaurant or whatever.
Sure. So I come from a majority Italian background. So my grandfather was Italian. My grandmother was German. And holidays and birthday parties and everything is food. Food is what made people happy, and you brought people together, and they like to cook and all this sort of stuff. So just as a young person, there's always food, and admittedly, I was an overweight kid. Also, I liked to eat, so it's just just kind of a thing. The impetus of where I am today happened when I first went vegetarian in high school. And high school is the mid-90s for me. And learning how to survive rather than just opening a fridge and eating whatever the hell you want, when I decided that food has to be, vegetarian, plant-based, whatever it was at the time, which was vegetarian, it was just
not plant-based. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. It was vegetarian. Vegan was a weird word still in the household, but thankfully my mom, was also vegan in her 20s. She was kind of a California hippie, so she knew what it was. And when I was dipping my toes in after finding out about it from being in the punk and hardcore scene, then I just started cooking for myself. And then I started trying to find recipes. And then over the years, as food evolved, I didn't get lazy about it. There's Beyond Burgers and, hot dogs or whatever, and just buy that stuff. I concentrated more on still cooking for myself and inventing whatever I thought tasted good. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And to sort of prerequisite, I'm not from a cooking background. I didn't go to school for it. It wasn't a passion. It was more of a hobby or a necessity. It was more of a necessity. Being in the household that I was in, or the life spots that I was in at the time, I was just all right, I know how to cook. I know I can grab some tofu, I can grab some this, I can grab some that, and it's going to be a good meal. And then from just experimenting and doing that, it's just second nature. And, you have sort of the big three recipes or dishes that you can always cook if you're having people over or if you need something quick or whatever. But yeah, once I got into maybe the last 6-7 years of my life, that's when I had to like kick it into high gear and really be like, all right, now I got to invent stuff. And,
Yeah. Now I'm a food scientist, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is. And, I mean, I tell everybody it happened by accident, but it's a happy thing because like I said, way back when I like to eat, I still like to eat now. And you use the phrase of relationship with food. It's like a double-edged sword. Food is great. It's what my living is. It's what my world revolves around now. But I have gone back and forth with like food not being a great thing in my life. And then, trying to address certain issues with it because I've been overweight, I've been underweight. It's, I've dealt with that my whole life too. So, in the mid 90s being vegan and stuff, you just ate a salad, French fries, whatever it was, to survive. And that wasn't healthy. And I, at a point I like lost a bunch of weight. I got really sick and doctor was like, you aren't eating nutrients.
You're anemic.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah. Yep. It was one of those things. So yeah, lots of lessons learned with food. So, but we're in a good spot now. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. And so with the connection, like you were saying, between, punk and hardcore and food and obviously vegetarianism and veganism, I'm going to guess that the peers that were surrounding you and then obviously your family as well, like they had some experience, like you said, with the, vegan lifestyle. But as you started to like combine the music and the diet, was this like beyond the pale where they just like, what even is rich?
It was, it had a lot of getting used to, I think, family wise. Luckily, again, my mom was like, knew like what being vegetarian or vegan was. My grandfather and grandmother, until the day they passed, rest their souls, they never got it. They never understood it, but they like accepted it. And it was like a running joke because my cousin also like at gatherings, they were vegan at the time as well. And we would be sitting, Mama and Papa there, me, my cousin Kay, and we'd be like, all right, here we go. What's going to be is this vegan? If it's not vegan at the family dinner. But yeah, so it was, it wasn't completely alien and just sort of like incorporating it into my, I guess who I am, my identity wasn't like on purpose. It just kind of happened. And then, it was the typical like Earth Crisis show at the PWAC with PETA flyers on the table. I mean, it's not even making it up. Like that was how I learned about it. And then took that home. I read some stuff. I'm like, man, I like animals. Why do I eat them? And then that was it. We and you go from there. It's like the as storybook, textbook. How did you become vegan in the punk and hardcore scene? It was because of Earth Crisis, and it was because of the hardcore show with literature on the table.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what was your intro point to punk and hardcore in general?
So my first concert I went to by myself, because I was like metalhead, alternative, whatever. So I'll be 48 next month. My formative years were 1996 is when I graduated high school. So 96 and 92. So that's when I started listening to music, grunge, alternative, all the stuff that was popular then and is still popular now. That was what I listened to. First concert was Nirvana at Roseland Ballroom in New York City. That was the first concert I was allowed to go to by myself. My friend Jack from around the corner from high school. Our moms let us go. This was 1993. It was November of 93 is when that happened. And then a flyer from a punk and hardcore show circulated in my orbit. I really can't remember, but it was a flyer and it was a VOD show at the Northport Pipeline. Because as you might pick up, I'm from Long Island. I grew up, Huntington Station, Long Island is where I'm from. That's where I grew up. So I went, my first hardcore show after seeing Nirvana I was like, I'm going to go to this thing. This looks cool. And then I met Neil Rubenstein, and my life has ever been awesome from there. That was my entry. It was just like, I like aggressive, loud music. Oh, I don't have to go to a big concert. There's band. Didn't know. I mean, it's so cool to think back of it. It's just like, I didn't know. You just like how I bought a lot of records at that time. I looked at the logos, the band logos. I looked at the artwork and I was like, this seems cool. Let's go see what that is. And I went and saw, and that's where it was. It started right there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then as you started to go to school and obviously be more entrenched within the scene, so to speak, and wanting to maybe participate in playing in bands and stuff like that. Did that reveal itself pretty early as far as like wanting to be in a band, or did you have to like graduate up to that, so to speak?
No, it was pretty fast after getting into a scene. You meet the people, you find who you connect with. And then you're a teenager and you want to be the person playing, it's just like, it's so natural to be like, yo, this is cool. You fit in with it. You enjoy it. And yeah, from there I met Lana Barber. I was in a band called BOR, BOR. We knew each other because we worked at the Huntington YMCA as camp counselors. And from there, they formed like this youth-centric music and arts committee where mainly like the camp counselors and people in that circle who enjoyed music and arts, we would meet, we'd have a meeting and be like, hey, do we want to do an art show? Do you want to do a music show? Whatever. And meeting those people, meeting Lana, they needed a bass player for their band BOR, and I didn't really play bass. I played guitar, but I was like, I could do 4 strings instead of 6. Sure, why not? And that was the first band I was in. And it was like, I don't even want to listen back to it. It's one of those kind of things that was like probably not as good as I thought it was back then. But
Sure.
That was my first, we practiced in Anthony, our drummer's basement, and just like played local shows. We played on a radio station once. It was, cool stuff. But yeah, it was very quick from the seeing it and being around it to like, it just kind of like naturally happened by being involved with the music and arts committee and these people that are just like, hey, we see each other at shows. We want to do shows. Why don't we be a band? So it went from there. Yeah.
Sure. What were you in that initial band? Who were you trying to rip off? Because that's usually how it starts, where it's like, oh yeah, we want to sound like, I remember when I played in my first band, we were like, oh yeah, let's like rip off, Unbroken and Strife. And then it sounds nothing like it.
Right. I feel so. I want to establish this too, because, coming on a podcast and talking about myself, I wanted to be able to like give you some baselines and give people who listen about me who don't know who I am. Like, I'm always the guy, minus one time, that has joined a band. I have never started a band until this last band that I've been in. So I've always joined a band and they've had music. I just played it. Or if we wrote a song or two, it was like, oh, can we do this thing? Whatever. So that's what I was in BOR, and they kind of established themselves as like maybe like an L7 Bikini Kill kind of noisy, messy, yelly, female-fronted, aggressive band. That's kind of where we were. It was like a lot of screaming, a lot of like frenetic guitar playing and drumming, and just everything was just all over. It was a lot of fun to play, but I think that's that was the vibe, I guess. And it was
right. That was at the Stew at that time too.
Yeah, it was very much like Lana very much liked things that people didn't like or weren't supposed to like. So I appreciated that. It's not like we were like, have to sound like something on the radio or like, oh, let's sound like this. Like what you were just saying, like, oh, I want to start a band that sounds like Strife, and you try to start a band. It was more artistic than that, and I appreciated it. I learned a lot from that first band because it was very artistic. Everybody in the band was very musical. I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to write down music. I'm just like, 3rd fret, 6th string, like to this day, like I'm just like, I'm an idiot when it comes to actual music. But I've come a long way since then. Yeah. But.
Sure. You're still an idiot, but just maybe less on music.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with the idea of being like, okay, obviously, music is not going to give me my life. I'm not going to play in bands. What were you, correct me if I'm wrong, you were pursuing some sort of, art degree, art history, all that sort of stuff. What were you, progressing towards ending up, like art teacher? Like what was the vibe?
You nailed it. Okay. That was exactly what I went to college for to begin with. That's where, that's great. I love that you hit that on the head. So it was always sort of assumed in my family that, like the typical, like you graduate high school, you go to college, you get the degree, and then you get the job from the degree. I getting into punk and hardcore and my life going in these directions where it was like not cut and dry. It was not the typical stereotypical American dream kind of like, oh, you do this and that's what you're expected to do. You get into the punk and hardcore scene and you see that people do different things. They do things for themselves or whatever. So that idealism was like set in quite kind of early, but I never wanted to disappoint my family or do, make them feel like I didn't appreciate what they did for me. Cause, my education was, paid for by my grandparents because they wanted me to succeed. I went to school to be an art teacher because they wanted me to be a teacher. My family was very much like, you should be a teacher, you should teach, and then you get summers off. And then it was very much just like this. That was the best job. You're a teacher because you get summers off and you get paid well, whatever. And that's not true at all, unfortunately.
Right.
But that was it. But I was artistic, and artistic for me was like photography. I got into live band photography in the mid-90s with film cameras and stuff. That was my art along with music. So I couldn't go to school for art. That was like, you don't do that. You need a job afterwards. So I went to be an art teacher, and I got through the first semester of college, and it was the most miserable experience because the curriculum was like sitting in a class, like gluing macaroni to construction paper. And that's not even like
an exaggeration, right?
We literally had to like go through these like, okay, well, if you're going to teach 6-year-olds art, this is what 6-year-old art is. And I was like, oh boy, I was like, this is not my thing. So that's where that point of knowing that I had to change my major and not tell my family right away, because I felt like if I told them right away, might have fought back on it. I might have just sort of given in and, just like, all right, I'll do it and I'll be the teacher and whatever. So I changed my major at that point to actually photography. And it's just such a roundabout way. The nutshell story is I changed my major to photography. I got 2 semesters worth of photography, like photography 101, photography 201. And then like when you wanted to get the degree in photography, it was like 300, 400, 500, whatever the classes were. One woman ran the photography department. After the first 2 prerequisites, you have to like run your portfolio through her, and then she accepts you into the degree program. She hated me. She did not like me whatsoever. She's probably one of the only 3 people on this planet that do not like me. I don't know what I did wrong. She hated the fact I took pictures of bands playing and people jumping on top of each other. That wasn't art to her. Art to her was like a flower and it's in a frame. That was her photography. And I'm sure everybody's interpretation of art is different, and that's fair. However, her being the teacher should have been more open-minded. And I feel that to this day, like there was just like, that's not what a teacher does. You don't suppress somebody's artistic output. So she found a way to fail me, and I wasn't allowed to get into the degree program. So major number 2 is foiled. I couldn't be. You're
like, what am I going to do here? Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. I can't, I'm not an artist. I like taking pictures. I can't be a teacher. And then I just rolled the dice, and it was art history. I was like, I got to do something in the art realm. I got to do something because I took so many classes those first 2 years that were prerequisite till I was like, literally looking at like the trees of like degree, like, oh, if I take all these things and then you can have this end result. I was like, art history. Okay. And then like, just that was it. And I had to just like,
roll with that.
Yeah. Give up the sort of the dream of being a photographer for a living or being a teacher for a living. And, I eventually, we'll get to this, but like 3 years into school, 1 year of the art history program. And then I took 10 years off and then went to school for my final year because punk and hardcore happened.
You get it. You like merch. You like deals, right? How about you combine both of those things together with our awesome friends at rockabilia.com? Use this promo code for 10% off of your first order, 100 words or less. That's the number 100. And what is Rockabilia? They are officially licensed merch seller. When I say officially licensed, that means they're only trafficking in the ways that bands get paid. I know that sounds like maybe sort of commonplace, that it's like, oh yeah, bands should get paid for their merch. It's not common. If you order anything off of, Amazon, most likely like 70% of that stuff is not officially authorized by the band. And you just don't need to traffic in that. I don't care if you're into hardcore, punk, mainstream hip hop, classic rock, whatever it is, Rockabilly has got it. And they want you to check out their wares. They have over 500,000 things for you to check out. They do limited edition collaborations with bands like Converge, Typo Negative, Ghost, and they got plenty more up their sleeves. Trust me, you want to bookmark this website, go back there, sign up to their email list, follow them on social media, all the things so you can stay up to date with what Rockabilly has going on. So again, go to rockabilly.com, use the promo code 100 words or less, buy some merch. You need it. I know you do.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
I mean, especially with school, like at that juncture of when people get opportunities within, music, whether it's like working in the music industry or touring with bands, doing merch or whatever, like you get these things that feel so like undisposable. You're like, this is the only time I could do this in my life, I feel. And if I don't do this, like school will always be there. And I know that's what every kid says to their parents, but like there are certain things where it's like, this is the only time I could really take a swing at this.
It's true. And that's literally what happened. As like school will be there. Opportunities came up. I started working at like a game store. They called it the Nerd. All my friends, the Nerd Store. I'm really big into Magic the Gathering. I have been since like 1995 or 1996, whenever I was in.
Since they put out their demo. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I was into the demo. Yeah. Dude, it's so funny.
I was into them on their first 7-inch. It's not a problem, guys. The first rip, they weren't even in packs at the time.
New stuff, not really into it, but I'll still listen to it. Yeah. I got this job because I was playing Magic, and I was more responsible than a lot of the people that would frequent the place. And I'd always hit up the guy like, hey, do you need somebody to do whatever? And eventually with enough persistence, he's like, all right, yeah, you come in one day a week, whatever. And then I just worked my way through being some kid playing to running the store full time. Then the bands, I was doing bands and stuff. We're skipping a little bit, but either way, I worked my first tour, sort of guitar teching, instrument teching for rival schools. And Neil Rubenstein was the tour manager then, because he's my best friend on the whole planet. So he was like, hey, do you want this job? And I was running the game store. So I reached out to one of the mature dudes who would come play and was like, hey, you want to manage the store for a month? I'm going to leave.
Right. I got coverage.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, let's go on tour. And that was like August, September of 2001. Yeah, we were on the road when 9/11 happened and stuff. So that was
I definitely saw you at the El Rey in Los Angeles. Yeah. I remember that too. I mean, I think every time rival schools came to Southern California, I was there. But when so talking about that experience, getting put into a professional environment, even though it's obviously with friends and people you look up to,
sure,
it's still very different. Like or did it feel different, or did it feel like, oh, this is a little vacation away from the game store?
It was a little 50-50, but it was more like head first into a world that I was like I knew touring happened. I didn't know the workings of it. I knew how to fix instruments or handle instruments and, set them up. And it was just like, yeah, okay. But then like the world of being around professional musicians, legendary musicians who have so much history, and me being just it's like this right now. Like we know of each other, you and I, we know of each other. And now for the first time ever, we're face to face and just like going for it. And you learn so much about people, and you learn so much about the world of touring and where they come from and what people expect and don't expect. But I learned really fast to just like not be someone who's starstruck, not to like worry about how famous somebody is or whatever. I just did my job. I'm always very respectful and like enjoyed being around people and just treat everybody as they expect to be treated. And it worked out really well because, it's for me, being professional and being respectful and just like having everybody have a smile on their face at the end of the day is what's really important for me. And I've just kind of like gone with that in every professional environment that I could be in, no matter who I'm, working for or with.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you, and I presume that because like what you were saying, you're, the 10-year hiatus or what have you, did you jump to other touring opportunities and teching stuff and merch stuff?
I certainly did. That's a great segue.
Okay.
So there was the band I was in, What Feeds the Fire. We got offered to go on tour with Bane, Hatebreed, Poison the Well, and that was also in 2001. February.
Yeah, definitely saw you at House of Blues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 2001. That was before Rival Schools. So I went on tour. We did that. We broke up. I guess we did a huge tour. It was awesome. And then we don't need to do that again.
Yeah,
and then I went back to the game store. I did the Rival Schools thing, came back, and then there was like, I was in bands and stuff in there. There's a, 2001, 2002, and then 2006, then not that much time, from 4 years or so, I got a phone call from Mike Dubin. Mike Dubin set my life on a trajectory that I never expected it to go on. So I have, so much thanks to, for him to just think of me this one time. And he's like, hey, do you want to play guitar in Reggie and the Full Effect for a US tour? And I'm like, okay. And I will admit here, I had never listened to Reggie and the Full Effect before that phone call. But if Mike Dubin is like, hey, I think you're the guy and think you could do it, then I was like, sure, why not? Went on tour with Reggie and the Full Effect. Didn't have our first practice until the first show we played. This was with Paul from Slipknot when he was playing bass for Reggie and the Full Effect. I don't know if everybody knows this story, but it's just, when I tell these stories, the words that come out of my mouth are just so
bizarre.
So bizarre. But it's real, and it's so cool that my life was able. And then, okay, so we get back from that. I'm trying to do a job or whatever. James went on to play keyboards in My Chemical Romance for the Black Parade World Tour. Their tech the first day didn't work out. James is like, hey, can you come to Nassau Coliseum tomorrow morning and work for My Chemical Romance? And I was like, okay. I was like, again, I took these opportunities, and this is fast forwarding to 2 years ago when somebody's like, hey, do you want to open your own business? And I was like, okay. Like, it's just,
I guess,
I'll figure it out. Sure, we'll figure it out. But anyway, so yes, I went, I took that opportunity. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't connected to anything. I was in Providence. I got on a train the next morning down to Nassau Coliseum. Jeff, who worked for My Chem at the time, picked me up. He's like, hey, I'm Jeff, you're Rich, here we go. Like, and it was just like, this was like the next level. Like, Rival Schools was like the experience I needed to understand what touring was. And then My Chemical Romance World Tour for their biggest album, their biggest, most ambitious thing ever. I got thrown right into it. I wasn't a professional tech, but again, it was one of those things where it was like, James knew I knew how to tune a guitar and fix a thing and whatever. And he knew as a musician, so he trusted me and he asked. And there I was for about, 8 or 9 months, world tour, just, setting up guitars, basses, keyboards all over the world. And that was just like, that's my thing, as you see my posters from that tour that I hoarded home after that. And it's probably the thing most people know me for and are like, oh yeah, here he goes again talking about his My Chemical Romance. You know what I mean? I get it. It's like,
sure.
Yeah.
So your high school quarterback days. Oh, remember that time I threw a touchdown?
That's exactly what it is. And I kind of like get cringy sometimes, like telling the story, but like, I have to like admit, like it's my life. Like after a while, I start looking back at these things, like I was just saying, the most craziest combinations of words and people and things. this is what your life is. This is the roads that you take and people that you meet and the opportunities that you're given. Like, so what if it's cringy? It's like, yeah, I'm almost 50 talking about when I was, 30 or 25, whatever, about like, yeah, sure, you work for My Chemical Romance. You're not in My Chemical Romance. I'm like, no, I'm not. I developed a really...
I was in their orbit.
Yeah,
like, this is cool. Yeah.
And the thing is, the friendships from that tour and the connections and all of the things I learned from there have been with me since then. Professionalism in music, professionalism while working for bands. Like I said in the beginning, like I'm not like a starstruck kind of person. It was really easy for me to be like, sure, yeah, this is fine. And I can do this. And, we would go to these big festivals and there'd be like rock stars, like, the big European festivals, and you'd be in the green room and you'd meet these. And I was like, it was cool. Like I didn't, there was no point where I'd freak out, and I wasn't like, I wasn't known as like a punisher, because there's like people in your orbit that are like, like, oh man, you got to keep so-and-so away. He's going to,
right. Like, he's going to ask for the autograph, the picture. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Even like a picture these days is for me still. I'm like, I don't want to, but any proof, like Graham, man, I got to post it, but.
Of course.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to interrupt in regards to like the touring lifestyle, regardless of the level, is different and difficult in many instances. Some people are not cut for it. It sounds like you were, because you experienced it in a lot of different levels, so to speak. Yeah. What did you, I guess, learn about yourself via touring, and like how you were able to adapt to that highly volatile environment as far as changing cities and never knowing how things are going to go day over day?
Sure. A big thing for me is that I didn't really have something or someone back home that I needed to get back to. I was able to just focus on like me. I'm alone, or alone internally. Obviously you're in a bus with 12 other people. You're not alone, but like every day it was like, the job is a job. You got to be up at 7 a.m. You're going to be up until midnight, and this is how it goes. And you're going to probably not sleep a lot. But it was like, once I knew what was expected and how a day went, it's like, and I was joking about it literally yesterday about my life now. It's Groundhog Day. Every single day is exactly the same for me, because I have this thing. I have my business, and the same things happen every single day of the week. That translated just from touring. It was like, you're on the road for 8 months. You're in planes, you're in buses, you're in boats, you're in ferries. It was easy for me to adjust to, but the reason why I didn't continue on with it is because at the end, there was a bit of emotional like breakdown. I was like, maybe I do need to not be away from everything, because thinking back to the beginning, it was like, I don't regret it. I will do it again in a heartbeat. But it was like the phone call from James being like, hey, you want to do this? I'm like, all right, yeah. But then like 9 months of it, and realizing that almost like a year of my life went by, and the progress of my life was just like working for this entity that I enjoyed. But I'm like, I still have other things I probably should be doing. This like existential weirdness was like really setting in at that point. I'm like, maybe I should get back. I think maybe I should work on this relationship. I should maybe work on this or that. And it was like a very like the brain started spinning very quickly. And I had to quit. I had to, tell Frank, I was like, hey man, at the end of this run, I don't think I'm, and everybody was like, fine. I mean, it's like, and that was the best way it could have gone. And I'm sure people understand it in that world. But to the point, it was easy for me to get used to, because we did, in the punk and hardcore, like you're in a van, you're in a minivan, you're in whatever, and you sleep on people's floors, and you sleep in the car, or you sleep in a venue. The jump from that to hotels every night, and your own hotel and your own bunk and your own amenities and stuff was like, whoa, I could do this forever, because I was right on the floor. It's like the Jeffersons. I'm moving on up. So, I'm just in the penthouse. But it only could go so far, because it was like, I felt like my life needed to go in another direction. And that direction fully circling, I went back to school to finish my degree after quitting that, the world tour and that stuff. So Yeah.
What in by that time, as you were touring, you were living in Providence. What brought you down to Providence?
My geographical existence. So Long Island, born and raised. Providence was college.
Okay.
I had a cousin who went to college in Providence that I visited a few times when I was in high school, and I really liked it up here. I was like, "This is cool. This is cool. Yeah, whatever." As you can tell by now, I'm like, whatever. This is cool." Like, I'm very much.
Yeah.
I don't really think too much about it. It's like, oh,
They got vegan hot dogs there. You know, was it hot dogs? Isn't that what it's called?
Spikes was the one.
Spikes.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
challenge.
Is that still? Does that still exist?
There's one left. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny you asked because Zach from Bain and I 2 days ago were sitting there trying to figure out if Spike still existed because we wanted to do the challenge. So yes, it's still very relevant.
I definitely just remember I'm playing a show there in 2001, and just like my mind being blown where I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Vegan hot dogs here in Providence, Rhode Island? Wow. I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of enamored by New England, very different from Long Island, very suburban, whatever. And then New England was like, oh, this is like, we're in the woods, but not at all anymore. But as a 16, 17-year-old. And so I applied to a bunch of schools, got rejected at all the like state of New York schools that I applied to. Rhode Island College, which is like a commuter school in Providence, that's like it's on the bottom of the list of any school you'd want to go to. I applied to it, got financial aid, and it was the only way I could afford to go to college because of the financial aid they gave us. And that's how I ended up here. And yeah, I did bounce around a few times. I've lived in California twice, the Boston area, and then back here again. And now firmly rooted here in this home and area and business. In North Providence is where I live, but Providence is now my home forever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the connection that you were talking about at the very beginning in regards to like, vegetarianism, veganism, animal rights, and then being like, I know for many people, the idea of marrying something that you're passionate about and your job, like sometimes, like ideally that's where a lot of people like want to end up. But then some people are like, oh my gosh, like if you work in a thing you care about, that thing you care about, you won't care about anymore because it's work or whatever.
Yep.
So, I mean, it sounds like throughout your journey, you were, still attached to, veganism and vegetarianism.
Oh yeah.
Was there ever, prior to obviously you making, your own foods, was there ever a lingering desire to be like, maybe I can connect food with something for a living?
So it was never food, but that's such a great question because I always had the desire to do my own thing. And I will always say that because I was never cut out to work for someone else. Bosses bother me. Like micromanaging bothers me. Like the idea of a hierarchy of people telling you what to do for where you work just bothered me. I dealt with it. It was fun. I'm a very personable person, but I also have a lot of, I can do a lot more than people would ask me to do. Like I feel like I'm intelligent and I'm hardworking. I can do way more than just whatever job I was working at the time. And a lot of the times I'd go, beyond the job description and do a lot more just because I'm like, I can do it. I'm smart enough to do it. I want to do it. And with that, learning a lot of the ins and outs of just like what a job is as a teenager, young 20s, you're like, oh, this is how a business works. Okay, cool. And then as I got older, and then just the marrying the idea of like something I care about and my own thing. It was never like, I don't really know what it was, but I wanted my own thing. And as I got closer to that thing sort of materializing, I found myself working in the service industry by accident. This was like post touring. When I was back in school, I got a job in a bar, restaurant, a bar. And I think it just kind of like materialized out of being around it so much. And going back to what I was saying earlier about how I liked to cook. I still liked to cook. It was one of those things where like, I enjoy this. I wonder if that, a very early version of that thought probably crossed my mind, but the impetus of them marrying each other was one night, in November, 2020, COVID is full swing. It was Thanksgiving time. Everybody was making bread. If you remember the bread craze, everybody's just making bread because you're at home and that's what you're doing. I finally made a loaf of bread and I made a batch of seitan. Just because I had tried making seitan before and I wasn't very successful at it, but I had plenty of time and I had the ingredients. So I'm in my kitchen, wanted to make a Thanksgiving dinner. I whipped up bread and seitan, and literally it was like, oh, what was that? There was a Jon Favreau show on Netflix. The director, Jon Favreau. Oh my God. This was the moment that I was like, I should do this. I got to think of
Was it the film Chef that he did, the food truck one?
Maybe it was like a reality show or but yes, I think it is in that realm. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember, but I remember Jon Favreau being the reason I'm sitting on my couch and being like, you know what, maybe I should sell this stuff. That was it. Right. You have plenty of time to think, and that's funny. And totally, yeah. And I was like, maybe I should sell this stuff. And that's the moment where all of this stuff sort of started snowballing to my present, to 2020 to now, is when all of the I'm going to do it for myself and I'm going to do this thing that I care about. The people are like great feedback from it. So that's where it happened. Yeah.
Got it. Pulling the connective tissue together, especially where, the thing you hit on there that I think is so important for all of us in like the independent music community. It's like, yeah, you want to have something that you do on your own. Like, yes, you can exist in these systems and be able to find success and everything, but then it is always that thing that you're attached to that you're passionate about, and hopefully that will be able to pull you through. Maybe it's your living, maybe it's not, but that's the thing that still needs to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of those experiences from touring and finding the cool vegan spot, right? Like just being, you're with a bunch of friends, majority of vegetarian, vegan, you're in a new city, you want to find a place to eat and sit down and enjoy the time before you have to go load in and stuff. That's like a thing. That is like a thing that every person in a band, that is what you do. That's like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're in a new city, you're on your phone, you're like, all right, vegan in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And you're like, all right, this place is good. So let's go there. We'll head there. And I, did that so many times. And then, as a person finding a place and enjoying food and conversation and a place to relax for a minute and get a coffee, and then finding myself working at Timeless in Oakland when I lived in Emeryville. I was a manager at Timeless for 3 years or so. I worked there for 4 years and I was a manager for 3. Seeing how Timeless ran as like a fully, and for people who don't know, Timeless is an amazing bakery, fully vegan bakery coffee roaster in Oakland, California. RJ, who owns the place, is probably one of the biggest influences on where I'm at now with my business, because I worked for him. I saw how a DIY brained punk and hardcore group of people can start a business, build a business, maintain a business, expand a business, and do it on their own terms with the shell of like, okay, this is how a business runs, but we're a bunch of outcasts. We're a bunch of people with tattoos. We're a bunch of younger people doing something that a lot of people probably aren't used to. And I took in so much of that. And one of those things was that like, it's the people who own these places, the people that come to these places. That's half the reason why people come in. You create an environment that you're like, it's not just because, oh, you can get a vegan pizza roll here and you can get a really good shot of espresso. You can sit and you can hang out and you can have conversation, and you could probably bump into somebody famous from the Bay Area that, is friends with a friend. And, you're like, oh, is that Matt Pike from High on Fire? Sure is, like, cool. Let's get him a shot of espresso. I made Rashida Jones a cup of coffee on an AeroPress once because he was in town doing like Toy Story 3 or something. She came in because she was a friend of a friend, and I sold her an AeroPress. Like, these are the things that are like so cool, and like I hold them so dear because, again, it's my life experience, but it's like, it's how it got me to where I am and how I treat what I have now so importantly. These interactions and these just the environments of just being comfortable and open and just, I don't know. It's shout out to Timeless. That's all I gotta say. It's just, that was such an important, RJ, Timeless, Sam, everybody who worked there. It was such an important piece of this puzzle that was by accident. And it's just like, you see how a place works and you're like, yeah, this is how I want my boss to be. This is how I want my work environment to be. And held it in the back of my head. And then, 10 years later, I used a lot of it for what Providence Vegan Deli is.
It's evilgreed.com time. And what is Evil Greed? They are an amazing merch provider. They sell cool stuff from bands that I can guarantee that you will like. But first, before we talk about them, let's talk about the discount that they want to give you. Use the promo code NEWVINYL for 10% off of your first order. This company is awesome because they work specifically with record labels and bands of the heavy artistic bent. So, bands like Knocked Loose, Blood Incantation, Chelsea Wolf, Speed, the list could go on, but you get it. You'll go to evilgreed.com and you will immediately be like, oh, I see what they're doing. This is great. You will then be like, wow, I just have 40 items in my shopping cart. What do I do here? But all jokes aside, I love Evil Greed because they have a specific point of view and they curate their shops around that. They ship from Berlin in Germany, but they ship worldwide, and the shipping rates to us here in the States are very advantageous. So exclusive colors of vinyl, sweatshirts, shirts, all of this cool stuff they have, and I highly recommend that you take advantage of this promo code. New Vinyl gets you 10% off your order. Again, New Vinyl is the promo code, gets you 10% off your first order, and please go visit evilgreed.com and have fun. What you're saying is so cool, and it's special when punk and hardcore kids can put on the veneer of being quote unquote real business professional, however you want to put it, but then all of the bones of it, you're just like, oh yeah, vegan coffee shop, and oh, this branding doesn't look like other coffee shops, whatever, all of that stuff. When you put that together, it does create this alchemy that is oh, this is very special, and you're going to get people that are not familiar with this scene, so get familiar with it.
Exactly. And again, I learned exactly what you just said. There'll be people who will walk in and people being people from the neighborhood, older people who are not in our world, but they're going to walk in and they're going to want a coffee. And then, oh, we only offer soy or almond milk or whatever. And some people are like, oh, okay. And then some people are like, why not? And you learn how to navigate these things. And obviously you don't want to alienate anybody. And it's amazing to bring the worlds together over, food, drink, whatever it is. And you become, a staple in the community. And it's the same thing, with my shop. One of the things I was worried about is because I don't want to sanitize my identity. I don't want to, play down the fact that I'm a metalhead punk hardcore dude who enjoys my pictures that I've taken of bands with people stage diving and all that stuff. I put it on the walls. I wear this to work. I've got, my tattoos out, band shirts, upside down crosses sometimes by accident, something I gotta really, but the biggest thing for me was you don't want to alienate anyone because veganism, vegetarianism, dietary restrictions, whatever it is, you're opening a place that these people will eventually see and they'll go to, or they'll look up on the internet. And if your vibe isn't really in their wheelhouse, you'll alienate somebody. So there's a fine line of trying to be welcoming, but also maintaining your own identity. And I think I've done a really good job with that because of the transparency that I have with my shop and my customers on my social media and stuff. I am the person you're talking to right now is who is on social media. It's who's behind the counter. It's who's making the sandwiches. It's just I don't think there's any better way to get into a world of business coming from a DIY ethos, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, for so many years, than to just be yourself and transparent. Tell the truth. Do everything face value, and the 65-year-old couple from the neighborhood is going to feel just as welcome as the touring bands that come through because they know their friends came through and their friends came through. And then when I look out in the seating area on a Saturday afternoon where they're most busy, you've got family with kids, you got senior citizen couple, and then you have a band that's playing a show, that night, all sitting there. And it's oh, I did it, kind of I'm doing it. Yeah. So it's, and again, kind of circling back to the whatever vibe I give off when opportunities presented themselves. It's just I didn't want to worry about it too much. which is why I just wanted to be myself. I didn't want to have to be like, all right, this is how we're going to talk to people, and this is how we're going to dress, and this is how. Yeah, that's what successful businesses do. But like, this is my one thing. This is like I was telling you, it's like I wanted my own thing, and I'm not going to like polish it up or not show a certain side of it because that's what's expected. And a lot of people are very like, whoa, really? You don't do, there's a lot of questions,
Sure.
and I'm like, sure. And I'll answer the questions honestly. It'll be as a very easy question to answer, whatever it is. Like, oh, how are you making money by giving stuff away? Or how are you, how are you getting 65-year-old senior citizen couples coming in and having lunch with you every day when you look like that? There's still, that's like a real thing. Like, I am judged because of what I look like or the music I listen to and my tattoos and all that kind of stuff. Just like my grandfather and grandmother would have said, like, people are going to judge a book by its cover. You shouldn't get tattoos. And, I've dealt with it my whole life, but it's about staying, true to yourself, your identity. And if you're a good person and have good intentions, the things will come around to you that you are trying to put out in the world. And that's all the experience that I got with bands, with family, with working in service industry places, all of the things that I've experienced that we've talked about thus far. Every single one of those experiences has something to do with what my business does now. And it's just like, it's the most beautiful thing to look back at and be like, oh, I worked for a famous band. It was never a weird thing for me to interact with famous people. Then randomly one Saturday morning, the comedian Mark Maron shows up at my business and I didn't freak out about it. I sat down with him, thanked him for coming. We had a brief conversation. It was awesome. We took a photo and he was on his way. These are the things that happen. And these are like these are the prizes that I get from, existing at this point, just these interactions with people. The thanks from famous people who have come through and be like, man, this is awesome. Thanks for being. I'm like, thank me. Thank you. You're the famous guy. It's just
right. You're the one giving me visibility. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always want to make sure that I touch on every single part of every job, band, whatever it is. It's all experience that has built this thing that I have now. And I think it's going really well so far. So.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, I want to hit on the transition in regards to like, when you were making seitan and then obviously like, Born for Pain, but then making the leap into, opening up a storefront and all that sort of stuff. I know, like you said, you approach it the same way that you approached all these opportunities that kind of come to your life. You're like, yeah, sure. Let's try this out.
I hope my mom doesn't listen to this.
Yeah, she will. It's totally fine.
Hi, Mom.
But the, that jump and then that learning curve over the 6 to 8 months of like you being open, like I'm sure there were so many things that were just like, well, I didn't expect this to happen or what have you. Yeah. What were some of the things that you either learned the most from or were the most challenging, or however you want to take that?
There's a big gap of like how we put things together and establish what I was going to do as a concept as the vegan deli. That was never a thing in my head. That was like, quick nutshell is that Like No Other is a vegan ice cream and sweets and bakery shop that has existed in Providence for over 15 years now. They started as a truck and now they had a location. They needed to move. They couldn't find a place that was suitable for their size. They found a place that was too big. The owner of Like No Other, Karen, shout out Karen, she came to me because she was buying my seitan and selling it at her shop for me. She's basically like a retail kind of thing. We've been friends or whatever. She's like, hey, we found this spot. It's too big. If we split it with you, would you do something there? She's like, we'll take care of the build out, whatever. We'll figure it. And it was very much one of those, we'll figure out in the end. But like, if we don't do this, I don't think we can do it because they needed to move. I was like, sure. Yes, I'll do it. Everything happens. We're about to open and I'm like, all right, I made 8 pounds of seitan. Hopefully people show up. You know what I mean? Like and I'll be honest, I had no idea. I did not know what to expect because that's how I am my whole life. I'm just like, I don't think the thing that I put out is going to be as successful as it ends up being. I am always going to be grounded. I'm going to be modest. I'm going to be humble. That's just how I was raised. That's how I am. And then the first day when I sold out in however, an hour or whatever it was, and I was like, I have nothing left. I have to make all this to be open again tomorrow. How am I, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, that's lesson one. You got to make a lot of stuff every single day if you want to be open every day. And I got to, thank my number one, as in the first person I hired, Tim. He was my employee. He's no longer at the shop, but left on great terms. He's also a local musician. Tim was like the anchor. He ran the front counter. I was making the food and then staying after we closed to make all the food again so we could open the next day. So one of the biggest things was like, oh, I got to think about time management. I'm not very good at time management. And I learned really quick that I was like, okay, I got to be good at this. I got to be able to make this, because making seitan is such a long process, especially in the volume that we do now. But even back then, making 8 pounds of seitan takes 2.5 hours because I only had a pot this big, one burner and one outlet. You know what I mean? It was like one of those things. And then just navigating scaling up, because I was like, oh, this is working. This is like every couple weeks, every month, it was just like, oh my God, people like me. People like me. Oh my God. Okay. What am I going to do? So it was just like, finding the right ingredients, finding the right amounts of ingredients. I went from buying like bags of wheat gluten from Whole Foods or whatever it was, buy a few pounds of it, to having to buy like 25-pound bags. And then I'm like, 25-pound bags are nothing. I go through it, finding distributors, learning where to get the stuff, learning who, and then all of the like business stuff, right? You're like, okay, yeah, from this world of like, let's not really care about money. Money isn't what we are in this for, but like, dude, you got to kind of care about money.
Right.
So finding the best prices, being able to negotiate, being able to, source things from different places. And luckily the vegan businesses in Providence were so supportive of me because I was doing farmers markets and whatnot for like 3 years before the deli. And people were just like, do you need help? You can always call me. You can always ask me a question, this, that, and the other thing. So luckily, a lot of the things I needed to learn were shooting a quick text to Leslie from Basil and Bunny. Hey, where do you get this very specific vegan ingredient? She's like, oh, I either have some or whatever. So a lot of it is just like figuring it out on the fly. But the biggest lessons were just like the time management for sure. And then being a business person, like I am, but like I wouldn't label myself that.
Right.
Like I own a business. There's a big difference between owning a business and being. So, just learning like, okay, this is what a budget is. This is what you have to pay. This is what has to come in. This is what has to go out. Like finance is a math. I mean, admittedly in high school, I failed math my senior year because I just wasn't good at math. And now here I am, like, you should see my spreadsheets. I'm like, these are lots of numbers and I need to make sure they're correct and right and balanced and stuff every single day. So, there's a lot of experience and learning along the way. And every single day I learn more about certain things, refrigeration. I know how to recharge a compressor in a deli case now, like learning these things that you're like, can't call that guy because it's going to cost me $500. Let me go run out to the store, buy the thing myself, figure it out myself, a lot of that, because as everybody kind of knows, restaurants do not really have a huge profit margin, which is a very true statement. So anytime you can do it yourself, you're gonna, and especially me, because that's how you do things. So you just quick Google search, quick YouTube video search. You're like, oh, how do I fix a, XYZ? And you're like, oh, all I need is a washer. Okay, I'll go get one. So yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Sure. I wanted to hit on the community aspect, like you were talking about, being able to bring a lot of people in. But then I know a really important part of your business as well is obviously providing food for people who can't afford it or going through some sort of food insecurity. So talk to me about why. I mean, I understand aspects of why you built that in there because that's a part of you and it's a part of your experience. But what made it, I guess kind of important for you to either do it as soon as you did, or, be able to try to figure out ways to highlight that and make that work for everybody to be aware of it?
Sure. It was a big part of the privilege. Owning a business is a privilege, especially for me. I stumbled into it. It was going well. It is going well. And I recognize that this is a privilege. It's a platform. It's a privilege. It's not something that should have happened in my life. I recognize that. And I'm so thankful that it has been so successful. In that I guess it was the first year, there was a lot of things happening in the world, especially probably in the last 12 months with a lot, it's touching on like when food stamps and things like that were taken away. That was a big issue, obviously. And it still is that was something that happened. But even prior to that, I felt like I needed to be thankful for where I was at in my life. And the way I thought showing thanks for being here would be to help people. Exactly. It's as simple as that, because growing up the way I did, with a single mom, it was me and my mom for my first, 11 years of my life. We weren't well off. She had to take advantage of things like welfare and food stamps and, food pantries and whatnot that I can remember. And that's how life was for me. And that's how I lived my life. I live frugally. I don't spend a lot of money. I don't, no excess. The thing that made me be like, this is what I need to do, because there's people out there that don't have this privilege. There's people out there that don't have an extra dollar to have a meal. I own a business. I make all this food. There's probably going to be some extra at the end of the day anyway. And I established just a program that was like, hey, if you need a meal, I'll give you a meal. We'll make you a sandwich. No questions asked. And there's, that is kind of a thing in restaurants. There's like, the pay it forward board, or what we do is we put a little coupon on a caulk board with a sign that says, if you need a meal for whatever reason, no questions asked, don't feel uncomfortable, just bring one of these to register. We'll get you whatever. And even if you don't want to say anything, we'll still, we'll figure it out. Because it can be embarrassing for somebody to need help. Right. So I established that. And then I think at one point somebody was just like, hey, can we donate to that? Can I contribute to the food that you give away? It was never a thing where I was like, hey, I'm starting a donation fund. It was not like that, because that would defeat the purpose. It was just sort of a natural thing. But once somebody asked, I was like, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. There it goes. Yeah, why not? And then I established this little fund that ends up, people found out about it. People wanted to donate towards it. A fund of just like, there's just excess money that funds these free meals and stuff for people who can't afford it. Or in a bad spot, whatever the situation is. And then out of nowhere, I think I did a social media an Instagram post that kind of got a lot of reach about that program. I wanted to sort of just let people know it existed, and Instagram I'm the most active on. It went kind of viral or whatever. A lot of people saw it, and out of nowhere, the Providence Journal, which is the biggest newspaper in Rhode Island, and one of the biggest TV stations, reached out to me about that program and my business. It was the TV people reached out to me. We did a segment. We finished recording it. The next morning, the Providence Journal, and this was completely separate from each other. They didn't speak to one another. We finished doing this thing. And the guy's like, this is going to air on Friday. I was like, all right, great. The next morning, guy emails me from the Providence Journal. It's like, hey, we heard about your thing. My daughter sent me this video. It's really cool. Your new business. Let's do I would love to feature you in an article. I was like, all right, great. So we did a phone interview, told him a bunch of stuff. He had a photographer come by. No word of a lie. The next day, which was a Thursday, before the Friday video thing came out on TV, they put me on the cover of the Providence Journal, the biggest publication, just like, here, the new vegan deli in Providence helps, those less fortunate if you need them, and then sort of like touched on me. And I had no idea it was going to come out the next day. Somebody was like, hey, check this out. And then I am internally like freaking out because the dude from the TV station was like, hey, this is going to be the first, like, I didn't know how to navigate, like, who's going to get the first.
Right. Who's the exclusive, right?
Exclusive. Yeah. So I'm like internally waiting for this dude to call me and be like, oh, but nothing like, that's how I just worry about everything. But yeah, so I got in the cover of the journal, and then this thing aired the next day, and it was just this influx of people seeing what I'm doing, whether it be, punk and hardcore people, or whether it be the people my parents' age, just, I got letters in the mail as like thank you cards and checks in them. Like, hey, put this toward that fund. We really like what you're doing. Thank you. And it was just like, it was very overwhelming emotionally to have touched so many people in that positive way, and to like have this influx of advertising. Yes. But also like the ability to maintain a thing that helps other people. And since then, yes, that was like February of last year, not this past, but the one before. That's when all that happened. And since then, now so many people know about it. It's like a thing. And like somebody will order a sandwich, order a side, be like, oh, can I throw $10 to the meal board? And like, sure. And yeah. And then, that's,
you're like, I guess I just operate a free sandwich shop now. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? It's crazy. Yeah. And it's it's one of those things too. I have to learn like, oh, okay, at the end of the year, like there's a bunch of money sitting there. Why is that money sitting? It's not income. It's like,
right.
It's like we'll sub
the tax implications. And yeah. I totally get that.
But yeah, I mean, I am so thankful for everybody's like support about just like what I'm doing about running a business in the way I want to, because that interaction right there, like, you're giving food away. Yeah, I am. And it's fine. We're fine. Everybody's fine.
It's okay. More people can do this, it's fine. Yeah. This I realize this is a very unfair last question, towards you, because everything in your shop is obviously, I mean, I have not had the privilege of visiting yet myself, which breaks my heart, but, and I'm asking you to pick your favorite child, but what is the sandwich you are most proud of? And I know it's a sort of cheesy canned question, but I'm like, there's something that sits in your head where you're just like, dude, even if it's not the best selling item or whatever, it's the deeper cut on the record, whatever you want to call it. Sure. What is this sandwich that you're like, listen, this is my piece de resistance as of now? Obviously, you're still iterating.
I have to go with the hit single. The debut single is what I am most proud of. It's what put us on the map. It's what got our top 10 on the charts. It's called the Frank. It's an Italian grinder. We call sandwiches here grinders in New England.
Sure.
So some people are like, what the hell is
what the heck? Yeah. Wait, yeah. You sub sandwich, you mean? It's like, no. We call it soda out here. You call it pop. It's a different thing.
Exactly. So I've never eaten a meat Italian sandwich in my life. I knew it was a thing. It's like a thing, right? I'm Italian, but I never, it's like, these are the things, again, like you asked, like, what did you learn? I had to learn what freaking classic sandwiches were and like veganize them. So I did a bunch of research. I came up with the 3 seitan, because we make all the seitan in house from my recipes. We make all the seitans and stuff are made in house, which I'm very proud of. We maintain to do that to this day, and we're just going to do it forever. So I have an Italian style seitan, I have pepperoni, and then I have a sweet ham. Those are the 3 meats, and then we have a 100% olive oil and red wine vinegar and Italian herb dressing we put on it. Red onions, banana peppers, lettuce, smoked provolone Violife cheese, and salt and pepper, and and mayo. That's the controversial addition to this sandwich. Some people are like, you put mayo on an Italian grinder? What are you, crazy? But it's delicious. It's what makes the sandwich, actually. Anyway, that's from day one. People are like, yo, this is insane. And I was like, is it? Because I don't
even think compare it to. Yeah, this is just a good sandwich.
Exactly. But I'm so proud of it. It is like we sold 3 times as many of those than the next 3 sandwiches combined last year. Like when I do the numbers and look at the volume, it is insane. And I can't comprehend it, but I am most proud of that. However, there's there's so many things on the menu that are delicious, and I can eat any of them and be happy. But like, I think because it's named after my grandfather, Frank, and B, it's just become what we're known for, which is awesome to me that we have like a thing that like, it's like I saw that on Instagram. I came for the thing.
The known
like,
quantity. Yeah.
So, and I had one the other day. We went to see Killswitch Engage in Boston, and I had reached out to them just on a whim, like, hey, do you guys want food? I'll hook it up. I'll come up. It wasn't even like hey, can you get me in a show if I bring you some? It was just like, it's me just being like, I know a couple of the guys in the band and crew are vegan. This is what I do. And they were like, yeah, sure. Why not? So we went up and I had a fresh Frank for the first time in a long time. Cause admittedly, I put on a lot of weight the first year because I was eating everything.
You're crushing food, right?
Everything. And I was like, there came a point where I was like, oh shit. Okay. Like I need to not do that every day. And also our neighbors, a vegan ice cream shop with soft serve that I could like.
You got a 1-2 punch. Yeah.
It was good, but it was not good. So anyway, I hadn't eaten like a full sandwich in a while. So we sat down and we all like the room became quiet and all you heard was just people like chewing and just going, man. Just in the best sound for somebody who owns a restaurant is silence. You know what I mean? Because everybody's just enjoying everything, and myself included. I just like the fresh. We get our bread from a local Italian bakery every single day. It's fresh baked. It's one of those things that we're really like proud to be able to do. Like support another small business. It's delicious. But yeah, man, the Frank. It's the one to go with. And touching on it, people are listening like, oh man, seitan, gluten, all this stuff. We do offer a ton of gluten-free things. I think it's a little bit of a misconception or an unknown about the shop that like, because everything is seitan based, it's all sandwiches, it's just wheat everywhere. We don't carry gluten-free bread because it's awful. There's not good gluten-free bread. It doesn't exist. So I don't do it. I tried it. We wasted it. Moving on. But for the gluten-free folks out there, we have a ton of stuff. We offer things as salads. We have a bunch of sides and stuff. Because that's another thing. It's like, again, like talking about like including everybody, I know part of veganism, it's not like not everybody is a punk and hardcore straight edge vegan guy. There's just people who can't eat a certain thing or choose not to. I learned that a long time ago. So, catering to all those people out there to make sure that they have an option is important. So, but if you ever come in, you have to have a Frank. And our sandwiches are gigantic. I'm sure you've seen pictures of them. People are always very surprised at how large the portions are. And, that's me. I'm Italian. You got to eat. So
yeah, right. Yeah. You're not getting a 6-inch here. No, you're getting close to 18 inches here.
You're getting 3 meals at once. Yeah.
That is indeed what was up with Rich and Providence Vegan Deli. If you are in the area, please stop in, get a sandwich, and just revel in the awesomeness. I cannot wait to do that myself, but appreciate your time, Rich, and Godspeed. Keep running that business. Keep doing the Lord's work of pushing seitan. Anyways, next week, I've got, of course, another great conversation. This one is with the one and only Kevin Hart. I'm just kidding. It's not the Kevin Hart, but it is a Kevin Hart, and an important one nonetheless. This is the vocalist from the band Public Opinion from the Denver, Colorado area. Kevin was such a fun chat. I enjoy his band, but in speaking with him, it made me like him and his band even more. So that's what we do next week. We got Kevin Hart from Public Opinion. And until then, please be safe, everybody.